What's going on, guys? My name is HJ, and today I'm bringing you a Pro Evolution Soccer 2017 review. Now, I'm going to be completely honest, I'm reviewing this game as a complete noob to the franchise. The last one I played was Pro Evolution 6. Obviously, that was quite a while ago. I was a lot younger, so I didn't have anywhere near as much, critique in me. Back then, I was just mainly about playing the games for fun. But anyway, we're going to get into the review, and first of all, I'm going to start off with the gameplay. Now, the gameplay is very realistic. It has great dynamic physics, which make it feel like you're playing in a real match, and the natural flow of passing and shooting was something that really stood out to me. The gameplay was very smooth compared to some recent iterations, where the gameplay, from what I saw, it sort of felt stop-start. It was one of the reasons why I didn't end up picking up a lot of the previous iterations of Pro Evolution Soccer. Every team you play against feels unique, where some teams will play a much more physically dominating game with using their size and strength, and others using pace to get around your defence. One of the things that I saw a lot in my games is when I was playing shorter centre backs, it seemed like the AI were putting in a lot more crosses, especially if they had someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic up front. They would always be looking to try and score headers against a much shorter opponent. Tying into that, you really have to adapt your tactics to beat different teams, and if you're using the wrong tactics, teams will be very difficult to break down and defend against them effectively. From what I saw, there was a brilliantly smooth frame rate. I didn't suffer any frame rate drops that were noticeable. Obviously, it's very difficult seeing it from the human eye, but the game just felt very smooth, and the visuals, as you've seen in many of the gameplay videos that are around, are absolutely stunning. The player likenesses are incredible, the kit designs are brilliant, and overall, the game just looks amazing. It didn't seem to have any bugs or glitches in the time that I've played it. I've put about 40 hours of gameplay into it, so it was a very well developed game, which is something that I think is overlooked by a lot of developers today who rely on day one patches to try and make a game complete, and even after that they still suffer issues. Pro Evolution Soccer 2017 coming out of the box is a very well made game. It will probably suffer from very few issues, if any, throughout your time playing it. Especially, there won't be any major ones. It will be very noticeable. On the downside of the gameplay, the goalkeepers seemed lethargic at times and made far too many rookie errors in my opinion, even on the higher difficulties, which from what I've read has been a continuous complaint over the last few iterations of the game, although I've also read that there's a general consensus that they have improved. If that is the case, I can't imagine what they would have been like beforehand. Scoring from headers seems way too easy, and tying into that, the set pieces, corners, free kicks are far too easy to score from. The AI seems lost a lot of the time, and if you stick someone like Pepe, Ibrahimovic, Chris Smalling, just somebody with a bit of height into the middle and you can find them, they'll probably score 9 times out of 10. Unfortunately, coming into PES from FIFA, even being able to change the button layout, there seemed to be a strange control scheme. It really made it difficult to get into the gist of the game, whereas on FIFA, and I know I'm comparing it a lot, but they are direct competitors, you can basically learn the controls of FIFA in, say, 10 to 15 minutes. I was still learning new controls after around 20 hours of gameplay on Pro Evolution Soccer, and it's something that I think they really need to address to sort of entice new people to come to the game, because the control layout at the moment is a bit all over the place. I think it needs to be torn back to bare bones core gameplay to invite new players to the series. The presentation also needs some work, and gaining more licenses is critical to how it competes against FIFA in the future. FIFA currently has a lot more depth in their licensing that outstrengths what PES has to offer, and even in unlicensed competitions like the Champions League on FIFA, you can still play forms of that competition which are almost identical to the real thing. Also, in terms of game modes, I believe that FIFA currently has a little bit of a higher quality than what Pro Evolution Soccer has to offer. Moving into the game modes, Master League was probably my favourite game mode that you can play on PES. You can choose a real club to manage or start with an entirely fictional lineup that you develop into title contenders. You have in-depth training for each player, you have a decent trade mechanism but could do with a little bit of tweaking to add a bit more depth into it, and I enjoy how a player's value fluctuates based on the team that they're at and the current interest in them, which is something that I think FIFA could learn from. Basically, if you have a high-rated player on FIFA, no matter what club they're at, they're generally around the same value. I don't think it fluctuates based on different clubs that they're at, which is something that Pro Evolution Soccer does really well. It also shows the probability of signing each player in the transfer screen based on the current interest from other clubs, the club's willingness to sell to you, and the amount of wage and transfer budget that they have available and what they demand. In my opinion, it's a really well flushed out game mode. It's very, I guess, it holds your attention for a lot of time, and it's one of the things that I think really stands up in Pro Evolution Soccer. I think if they can tweak it a little bit, add a bit more depth to, I guess, the way that you manage your club, I think it'll become probably the premier management game mode that you will find on these kind of games. Now, the next big game mode that I played was Become a Legend. In terms of the time that I played Master League 4, Become a Legend probably took up a minuscule amount of time. It wasn't something that I played anywhere near as much, but it was essentially the second most game mode that I played. It's essentially FIFA's Be a Pro mode with an inability to simulate parts of the game that you aren't a part of, and an inability to choose which team you start with, which in my opinion was a massive downside to the game mode. It has great customization tools with regards to your player creation and choosing how you train and what skills to develop, but it lacks much depth beyond that. You pick a competition, you're placed into a club, and you progress from there. You can make requests to be transferred, you can improve your player, basically all the features that you would expect out of a general Be a Pro mode. Unfortunately, one of the things that really got to me about the Become a Legend mode were the camera angles that you had available. I felt that they were really poor and very difficult to get comfortable with. It feels like an okay game mode that can hold your attention for a short span of time, but it probably isn't the thing that you're going to be putting days upon days into like you could with, say, a Master League or a My Club mode. Now, with regards to the online modes, the only one that I was able to play for a decent amount of time was My Club, and even then I was mainly stuck to the offline aspect. It's very similar to Ultimate Team. It's a tried and true formula that works well in most sports games. My only criticism of that game mode would be the amount of time it takes to get into your first match. It can take upwards of 30 minutes if you're a beginner, and it's just something that I think they really need to cut down on. People want to get in and play that first match. Even if they were to provide you with just a generic team for you to use, it would be better than sitting around going through menus, things like that, for the first 30 minutes of your time in the game mode. As I said, I'm unable to comment on the other game modes as I had very little experience with them, although this is mainly due to a lack of players online when I was playing at pre-release and on release day, and the fact that the online modes are region locked, meaning if you're in the Americas you can't play with people from Europe, if you're from Australia you can't play with people from Asia, etc. Just things like that. It's something that I think that they really need to rethink, especially with the increase in internet speeds, the latency problems that you have a lot of the time between continents has been cut down, whereas say 5 years ago you would have had an absolutely ridiculous amount of lag playing with somebody from a different continent. It doesn't seem as bad anymore. I think it's just something that they really need to look into. Overall, PES 2017 is a solid game. The gameplay is solid, the visuals are excellent, but it lacks the depth in game modes that you would expect from a soccer game. It has poor presentation, and the licensing problems that they currently have will be the main reason why people, including myself, will be sticking to FIFA for this iteration of the games. Overall, I'm going to give PES 2017 an 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching my review. You can check out the links to the videos that I have used in this review down in the description. Unfortunately, I'm still unable to capture my own gameplay, but until next time, my name is HaidesJ. Goodbye.